I appreciate everybody showing up this morning. Appreciate Mother Nature for allowing a beautiful fall day. My name is Goyke. I'm the state representative here in Merrill Park in the 18th Assembly District, and we're here today to unveil 4 individual pieces of legislation to advance urban agriculture in Wisconsin and here in Milwaukee. My grandfather, Alphonse, and his wife, Jehosephine, had a small dairy outside of Green Bay, which is now a part of suburban Brown County. My mom grew up milking cows, and she instilled in me in an early age that I was never going to be a farmer. She didn't like her childhood, and she became a lawyer, and so did I. But I've always had a natural curiosity for agriculture, for farming, for where our food comes from. Fast forward a number of years, I moved to the city of Milwaukee to go to Marquette University Law School, and I kept seeing these cool gardens and farms sprouting up throughout the city of Milwaukee. That curiosity led me, as I said, to serve on the Agriculture Committee and to try to figure out ways where the state of Wisconsin could better help urban ag in Milwaukee and in cities around the state. And finally, we're here to unveil 4 different bills. But before I talk about the boring stuff in the legislation, I want to introduce Hannah Fisher, who is the owner of Kaleidoscope Gardens. We're standing on her sidewalk. Behind me is a garden that Hannah farms. In 2007, this space would have looked very different. There was a home that was abandoned and needed to be torn down. The community had a vacant parcel, and Hannah, with the cooperation of the city of Milwaukee, is now able to farm the land and produce veggies. And I would just like to tell you how I met Hannah at the farmer's market as a customer. And I had no idea that she was 5 blocks away from where I live in my district here, gardening and farming in the city of Milwaukee. So I'd like to introduce the owner of Kaleidoscope Gardens, Ms. Hannah Fisher.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Hannah. It's actually Hannah Albee recently, formerly Hannah Fisher. And this is one of my growing locations, also where I got my start. So I never intended to be an urban farmer, it just kind of happened. I had been farming for a number of years for other farmers and just kind of thought, well, I'll go to a city, maybe save some money and eventually buy a farm. I watched this lot sit vacant over the course of a summer and thought, dang, that gets really, really good sun. It's right on the corner. It's bright all the time. It's nice. Aside from a few kids playing on it once in a while, there wasn't really much going on. So I started doing some research. I knew it was a city-owned lot. I really quickly got routed to Milwaukee Urban Gardens, who have made the process for renting a city-owned vacant lot for a community purpose or community garden extremely easy, silly easy actually. So with the help of my now husband and Milwaukee Urban Gardens, I made a plan. We built this garden. It was the first of many, many projects to come. And it's still something that I really love. Every time that I'm out here, I get people walking by, I get to talk to, I get to meet neighbors. I really got to start my business small at this garden, kind of seeing what it could produce, seeing what markets I could have available to sell stuff. And yeah, so now that I'm in a few other locations, this space, I mostly grow greens and perennial herbs. With a lot of the bigger crops and kind of bigger spaces.
I've heard from Hannah's story is that she really is an entrepreneur. She saw a space, wanted to change it, and she just went out and did that. In digging to see how the state of Wisconsin could help urban farmers like Hannah, it became very clear that there's very little being done currently at the state level to advance urban farming and to help people like Hannah. So I'm here today, and I will introduce my Senator LaTanya Johnson in a moment. And Senator Johnson and I are introducing 4 separate bills today. And I just want to take a brief moment to describe the bills. And I'll do them in pairs. 2 bills direct the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection to create, and the second bill directs that newly created office to help promote and guide urban farmers to give them training and educational resources, promotional resources. Our state's Department of Agriculture, we do this for the dairy industry, for the pork industry, for corn, soybeans, etc. We have offices in DATCAP directed for veterans in a few weeks now, for veterans, for minority farmers, and we think that it is warranted to have an office within our Department of Agriculture specifically helping urban farmers. So that's 2 of the 4 bills. The other 2 bills I look at as creating, helping to create and cement Milwaukee's position as a nation leader in urban agriculture. The second 2 bills would create a school of urban farming and nutrition. This school would allow academic spaces for our colleges and universities in the Milwaukee area. It would allow students curious in urban farming to actually study the science of urban agriculture and nutrition, to offer degreed programs in urban farming. There are very few places in America that a future farmer can actually get a degree in urban farming. The bills direct the state to build that institution in the heart of the central city in what is called the 30th Street Industrial Corridor. So the image, my dream, would be an institution, a building where faculty and students can study and learn urban farming, and they'd actually have some acreage of reclaimed industrial land where they could grow and have research in an outdoor classroom. We think that this would, like I said, cement Milwaukee as a nation leader in urban farming. It would attract future farmers to Milwaukee. We'd love to have them take over plots like the one behind us throughout the city. So these 2 bills have been introduced. They'll be circulated for co-sponsorship this week in the State Senate and the State Assembly, and I'll be working with my Senator LaTanya Johnson to see that they get a public hearing and a vote and hopeful passage. On the west side of Milwaukee, Senator LaTanya Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As the size and strength of our city continues to grow, so does the needs of our residents. Creating unique challenges such as food deserts, the rising costs of healthy food, and local homegrown products and suppliers. These challenges require innovative thinking. I could not be happier to be a part of such an amazing package of legislation, one that would create a Wisconsin School of Urban Agriculture right here in our own backyard in Milwaukee's 30th Street Industrial Corridor. Milwaukee's urban population deserves fresh, quality, healthy, but most important, affordable produce. Our children and their families deserve multiple opportunities to eat products grown right here in the city that they call home. This legislation is just the beginning in ensuring our urban food shortages and those involved with healthy foods and affordable rising costs of healthy foods, especially for our low-income families, are not impacted by where they live and their economic status. Eating healthy should just be a basic human right, and this legislation is the start in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I want to call up Dr. Michael Carrier from the Milwaukee School of Engineering and Bonnie Halverson from UWM, and these are 2 academics that are spending their careers helping urban farmers in Milwaukee. So Bonnie and Michael, if you join, and be careful.
Here on a very cool fall day. Thank you everybody for coming. I want to point a little bit to some of the comments that were made earlier by Senator Johnson, which is about held by a politician that urban agriculture does not exist, that it's a construct created by people in the city. Now, despite all the faults that you can pick out with that particular comment, I will agree with one thing, is that we urban people did create urban agriculture because the food system we had was not serving us correctly. So we needed to create our own. And don't just take our city folk word for it. You could go to other countries like Japan and Cuba, where our colleagues and I have traveled to study urban agriculture. There, their political leaders are investing in science and economics to help build urban agriculture as an economically viable way to feed their people. And these are countries with very small land mass. So when you think about it, if you can make it happen in Japan and Cuba, we can make it here in the city. We just need to have the political strength behind it.
And the idea that not only can urban agriculture serve as a vital tool of community revitalization, economic revitalization, it's also an incredible educational tool. At the college level, I have engineering students who are going out into communities to work with farmers, to work with aquaponics organizations, to work on real-world engineering problems. For my students, that experience is invaluable, and for the community members, it provides a service that they normally would not have access to. So one of the driving motivators for the Institute for Urban Agriculture and Nutrition is to make those connections between academic institutions and community organizations, urban farmers. When we first started, there was this idea that there was some sort of division between the two. But the more that we started to work on it, we realized that they were one and the same. I live in the city, I work with people that live in the city. Groups that come to MSOE are working together to make Milwaukee something vibrant, to bring back narratives of production to a city that was marked by deindustrialization. And just one last note on the idea of urban farming as a construct. If you look at the history of Milwaukee, Milwaukee was a food hub going back to the 19th century. The Haymarket Square, just a few blocks from here, was a center for food distribution. Commission Row, in what's now the 3rd Ward, was also a huge food distribution center. And so the idea that Milwaukee as a city was devoid of those institutions or of those types of commerce is just wrong. And so the idea of reclaiming those histories in a way that allows for neighborhoods across the city to take part in that story of economic growth.
Is no one at Hunger Task Force who fights harder to fill those voids than Sherry Tussler. So I would like to call up Sherry Tussler, the Executive Director of Hunger Task Force and a neighbor here in Merrill Park. Sherry?
Yeah, first of all, I want to welcome you to my neighborhood, Merrill Park. Here we are, my neighborhood, and it's a giant food desert. You have to go downtown if you want to go grocery shopping or go to Wauwatosa. So thank you for growing food for our neighborhood. Hunger Task Force clearly gets lots and lots of food out to area food pantries, soup kitchens, and homeless shelters, more than 10 million pounds. But probably the untold story of Hunger Task Force and this urban construct of agriculture is we have a farm, and our farm is in Franklin, and all of our farmers are here today, or at least most of them. Show of hands, farmers, farm staff, and I'm really thankful for the legislation because it's going to provide opportunities for young people to get the training that they need. All of our farmers had to learn pretty much the hard way. Most of them weren't able to attend the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Most of them were working on farms and in city gardens and in nonprofit organizations in order to learn their trade. And many of them have been quite successful at their trade as a result. And as you can see, a lot of them are beautiful women who are working really hard out on our farm. They grew more than 500,000 pounds of produce that we distributed to our food pantry network this year alone. And I want to thank all of them, most of all, for the work that they do to make sure that people get healthy and nutritious.
I call up Stephanie Calloway from the Milwaukee Food Council to share a little bit again about this perspective of
Having us here on behalf of the Milwaukee Food Council. This is some of our board. Lonnie's not coming over here, but she's also on it with us. Thank you, Senator Johnson and Representative Goyke, for what you've done to bring this legislation forward. I think we are really hopeful for the potential that it has to bring needed recognition and resources. As of last year, as a nonprofit networking organization, so we meet every other month to share ideas and connect and build a healthy local food system together. And so as a networking organization, we recognize the importance of partnership for collaborative action. And so it's great to see partners and people here today.
is a woman responsible for the garden in my backyard. Gretchen Mead is the Executive Director of the Victory Garden Initiative that has built and planted hundreds or thousands of gardens throughout to the ones you can see behind me in my backyard where for now I'm mostly killing cherry tomatoes. So I'd like to bring up the Executive Director of Victory Garden Initiative, Gretchen Mead.
Thank you. I hope you had a good gardening year.
That's all right.
We can
I'm
work on
learning.
that.
I'm learning.
So, A couple of comments. I run the Victory Garden Initiative, as Evan said, and we're on our way to building 4,000 gardens in Milwaukee. We also run an 1.5-acre urban farm in the Harambe neighborhood. I invite you all to come. But something I want to point out is that there's a reason why Amazon just bought Whole Foods. Because they know they're going to make a lot of money, accumulate wealth through the speculative economy, right? All that money, $8 billion agricultural economy of the state of Wisconsin is easily outsourced through that mechanism. So one of the reasons why Victory Garden Initiative does the work that we do is we really want people in urban environments to conceive of the wealth, the economy, the community, the health that can happen through growing their own food. So I'm really excited that our politicians know that this is important for the state of Wisconsin and specifically for Milwaukee. I want to thank you for bringing me here today and just giving us a chance to look each other in the face and say we're doing good work and we're making it happen. I think the Institute for Urban Agriculture and Nutrition is really a game changer to ensure all of our institutions understand the value of urban agriculture and bringing that wealth and that community right here. So thank you, Senator Johnson, as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our speakers. I started my comments about speaking briefly about the farm that my grandparents owned up in Brown County, and I live today in a community very, very different than the land that they farmed and the community that my mom grew up in. But those traditions are very similar in farming and agriculture and food. And my final comment on this whole initiative, it's been such an amazing personal experience for me. Urban farming and food has been one of the best ways to bring multi-generational, multicultural communities together. There is something very human and powerful in getting a little dirty in gardening and producing food and cooking it and eating it together. We live in a very divided society. Quite frequently we hear stories about how segregated our communities are today, and the spaces like the farm behind me offer a really unique and powerful place for people of different backgrounds and ages and food traditions to come together and share. And that's been my experience. It's one of the personal reasons that I wanted to share of why I'm so personally invested in this issue and these bills. So with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions from the media. I'm grateful for you guys for coming and covering and sticking out in the cold. I gave a brief description of the bills here. My staff member Ryan also has press packets that have more written information about each